Hi everyone, welcome to our next Q&A. Today's speaker is Laura Matthews. Laura has over 35 years of editorial experience, and she has pretty much edited everything really, from novels to how-to manuals to, well, all sorts really. There's nothing Laura hasn't edited. Her brand name is thinkstory.biz, and she offers full service editing for corporate, individual and publishing clients. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for agreeing to speak today.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start off with just the questions that we have, and yeah, feel free to
Okay, super. Yeah, great questions. I'm looking forward to answering them.
First question, how did you become an editor?
Well, that's great. I mean, like you said, I got 35 years experience. I majored in business in college, so I have a business degree from a state university, minored in English, and then came out and, my first job was a data entry job. And I just learned, what I was good at. It was also I wound up becoming the person that everyone had to show something to before it went out the door. Make sure Laura sees that before it goes out the door. Because I was always correcting stuff and finding errors. And in the data entry, I even started to correct my fellow data entry people, whatever. So it just wound up growing into more and more of editing the words on the page. First, it started with hardcore proofreading. I got very good, classical training in proofreading where I was working. And then moved into sort of magazine editing, short form editing of articles and whatnot. And then I began to get editing in my title. I worked at an investment banking company as their editor of their financial reports. And then I was a managing editor of a website for several years. That was extremely good experience. And then there was the downturn of the web, and I became laid off. And so then I started freelancing as a book editor, as an editor of anything. And then it kind of began to be books. So once it was books, I started getting better and better at that. I was also, investigating screenwriting and learning screenwriting techniques, which are great for novels. And so just over time, eventually I had somebody say, I'm doing a novel. Can you help me? And I was like, sure. And we got going on that. And it just has kind of continued to blossom. I no longer have to seek out clients. I get most of them word of mouth. And, I just really enjoy it. So it was a process. It was a process, definitely.
So what does a typical day in your job entail then?
I usually have, I just was looking at my records. I usually have from 5 to 8 projects going at any time, books that, book length projects. Some of them, they're in various stages of publication. Some of them are just flat out proofreading, because I still do a lot of proofreading. It's absolutely my bread and butter. It's a great skill to have, especially if you're full on relying on yourself. We'll get to this probably later too, but it's super important to be mindful of cash flow, right? And I also right now have 2 novels right now. I have a business book. I've got a memoir, and then I've got some proofreading stuff. And then I also, on the side, just for fun, I do some web editing. So what I'm doing is I've got all of that divided into how much time I have to spend on each one each day to make what the deadline, right? And so I just do what I have to do every day, and then I close up shop and come back the next day and do it again. It's I like the variety. I like switching from project to project. So it's not like getting a book and focusing on a book for like 3 months. It's having a bunch of books that some of them are going to take me 2 years to get going with the author, because we're going back and forth. Some of them are just a proofread that's going to take me 3 weeks. It's a wide variety.
That's quite surprising in a way. I think a lot of people think that you just take one book, have the luxury of working on it all day for 8 hours.
Oh my God, that would make me go up the wall, honestly, because I don't work on anything more than an hour a day, because I need to be fresh to it. So I'll work on it till it's, till I've done that bit. Like, let's say this book, I have to line edit 30 pages today in order to meet my deadline in 3 weeks. And so I'll do that, and then I'll go on to the next one. This one, I'm working on the outline. I'm structuring it with the author. This one, I'm doing what I call an editorial evaluation. I'm just reading it and giving the author feedback. So I'm switching around from things all the time, and it accumulates into a decent living. That's the point, really, is to be able to, survive. So
You mentioned something there, and it might dovetail into the next question I have for you, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
something that you mentioned. You said you have to line edit 30 pages and
Mm-hmm.
you spend an hour on something at a time. So does that mean that you can line edit 30 pages in an hour?
I don't charge by the hour. I'm unusual. I think a lot of editors do charge by the hour. I frankly just charge by the word count because it turns out I'm really fast. And so if, so I might be able to line it at that in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, that 30 pages, because I'm just super fast. And that comes from obviously many years of developing this skill. So I always charge by the word count because that lets the author know immediately upfront exactly what the charge is going to be. It's not some thing that might amorphously change around. And we get that all settled up front, and then I just do the work. I don't like to, so I don't track hours or anything like that. And, everybody's different on that. That's what this business degree came in super handy. I would recommend that anybody wanting to embark on an editing freelance career to be sure to know how to manage a small business, because that's what it is. So get the books about small business management and, take a good look at that and make sure you know all the ins and outs of what it means to run a business.
That's a really good tip, and I think
Mm-hmm.
again, a lot of people wouldn't think of or be aware of as a part of editing. It's
So you have to understand accounting, invoicing. You have to be able to talk about money in a way that doesn't embarrass anybody. Just be very upfront about it. I mean, these are all techniques I've had to learn over the years, and it it seems to be working. So good.
Can you, obviously you edit so many different genres and things. So you edit fiction, you edit non-fiction. Which is harder, do you think?
It's interesting. It's more like what's going to take the most creative energy. That's what because again, I'm bouncing around from all different projects. So I don't want to have too much on my plate that sucks a lot of energy because I've got a lot of projects. The nonfiction is generally easier only because the authors are generally subject matter experts. So you're not having to wrestle through what they're trying to say. You can you're just doing structuring and you're helping them smooth it and make it accessible to a new reader. Mm-hmm. Fiction authors, especially, and this is the reality of the thing where I'm mostly always working with first-time authors in fiction. This is their first book. It's almost always their first book because someone with their second, third, fourth book is working directly with a publisher or something like that, right? So someone like me, I'm working on a first book, which is a lot of educating, a lot of telling people like how to tell a story, how structure, character arc. We're going to get to this in the next question about the step-by-step process, but there is a whole process to get a raw first draft, this person's baby that they just punched out somehow, and bringing it from that to something that's actually publishable is a nice long journey. And we become very good friends, over the time. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So it's not hard in that sense, but it is a lot more creative energy to work on the novels.
So you mentioned there, you will often receive a novel in a kind of very protean form. It is, as you say, it's the author's baby almost. Mm-hmm. It's not just the case then that when you take a novel, you're just proofreading it. It's mm-hmm. a whole step-by-step process. Can you describe that process?
Sure. That's when I'm really, I do definitely get from my publisher clients who are publishing a lot of books, I will get a novel just to proofread. So that's the thing over here. When I'm working with a first-time novelist, then I'm taking them through what I like to describe as a spiral, where the outside of the spiral is the structural issues, the character arc, the theme, the front to back of the whole story. And then you start to zero in as you clean up that stuff, you zero in and you get to a point where it's ready for the line edit. And this big part can take, 18 months, 2 years, and then you get to the line edit and it can start moving very quickly. But at that point, you've solved all the story problems, all the character problems. And then they turn it over to me and I do the line edit. And then I do a final proofread, and then they can lay it out, in book page form. And then I'll do a proofread of the laid out pages. And then it's ready to publish in my view, when I'm working with someone who's doing it all themselves. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of heavy lifting. It's a lot of coaching the client. Like some clients want me to just do the restructuring, and I do provide that service. Other clients want me to coach them on what they should do next. And so the spiral is like them doing an edit and giving it back to me, and I'll read it again, and then I'll give them more advice, and they do another edit and it comes back to me. We do back and forth and back and forth. Until I finally say, okay, it's ready for the line edit. You know, that's the goal.
So do you ever get, sorry, carry on.
No, that's right. No, I'm good.
Do you ever get an author literally come to you with like a, hey, I want to write a novel. These are my rough characters. This is kind of roughly what I want to happen. Or do they tend to come with a full manuscript?
I've definitely done that. Well, usually they have something, you know, they've been noodling around, they've been crafting scenes, they put them sort of in order, you know, there's usually something. But it was a financial thriller that I worked on, and that one was just super raw. They hadn't thought about character arc. They just had a cool idea, and they wrote a bunch of scenes, and we wound up having meetings. I went up and met with them for like a day, and we'll see. We'll get to another point about who can pay for this. You know, like what kind of people can pay for this kind of thing. This client could pay for me to come up to their place. We did, you know, whiteboard stuff on the wall, and we figured out all the arcs, and then I just went and did it. I tried to adopt their voice, the tone they wanted for the book.